Good morning, good morning, good morning. So today I wanted to share about, how do you know when you're up leveling, when that shift is taking place, and some ideas on how you can actually work through that process versus allowing the brain to overrule you and take over. And so I've been, as you guys know, I have been dealing with, for the past 3 weeks now, just been dealing with physical stuff like upper respiratory stuff. Then into the third week, moved right into, I know it's TMI, but diarrhea and vomiting and nauseation. And I've just been dealing with this all week. Of course, the vomiting hasn't been happening now for a couple of days, just this continuous nauseated feeling. And so because I strongly believe in that the things that are going on with our body, it has a connection to our mind and what we're dealing with spiritually. But there's just this opportunity for us to step back and see what's really going on, and allowing this to be the process. And first off, it like shows up in many different ways when you're shifting or up leveling in your level of spirit. So sometimes they can be subtle, just small shifts. And sometimes they could be really big, major shifts. And I'm talking like next level breakthroughs, very big ones and small ones. And you have, for me, it's like you have this aha moment, and then you have these holy shit up levels that are just like, whoa. So let me just kind of go with what I've been dealing with and the process that I use to work through this stuff, and how I embrace it versus resisting it. Anytime you ever notice you're resisting something, it's an opportunity to just kind of step back and say, okay, what is it that I'm resisting? It could be some form of a limiting belief. It could be just an old pattern that you've got, that you've developed, a habit that you've developed over time, out of the form of survival. And then it can show up sometimes physically, if you ignore it long enough, and it could also show up in your surrounding, the people that you're around, your environment. And the reason why I want to share this is because people are always walking around, first off, pretending like life is good and things are just hunky-dory, and they're so full of shit. Because when someone sits there and like complains on Facebook about this or that, and they could be just small complaints, but then they're telling people they're happy, they're only lying to themselves. And so, I've been really paying attention to what people say, especially when I post questions. I like to ask questions to kind of get an idea and a sense of where people are at in their life, and the way they believe in things. And first getting that everybody has their own view, and they are allowed to have their own views and their own perspectives, and giving up that I'm right, that my truth is only the truth in this world, and because when you can get to a place where you're truly just listening and paying attention, you can see right through things. You can see right through people. You can see right through all the story and the stuff that they're talking about, and get to the heart of what they're really saying. So so I've been, obviously, this past 3 weeks going through, and it's like the perfect time, right? Especially with the energy and what's happening in the world. And I really believe at the heart of my heart that we're being called forth to step into who we knew ourselves to be. And I'm not talking about all the labels, all the identities, really getting to that core of who you are. And it's a process. It's daily work. It's it's practice. So if you're dealing with, well, let me get back to, how do you know when you're up leveling, having a big shift or a breakthrough? Well, first off, it always shows up when you take on something that's outside of what you're comfortable with. So a lot of people will say, oh, taking risks and stuff. I don't like to say taking risk, because I think people have, well, we attach meaning to everything. But for me, taking risk just immediately brings the word fear, like, oh my gosh, I can't do that, and blah, blah, blah. But those are the moments when you actually want to embrace that and move into it. Anytime that you want to do something that you're inspired to do, and when I say inspired, what I'm talking about is going within and like knowing the difference between the not so good part of yourself and the good part of yourself. So when you're inspired by something that just feels really good and exciting, or you have just really good emotions around what it is that you're inspired by, and it could be anything. So for me, I spent the most part of 7 years diving into the healing process, really getting to the core of my own bullshit, coaching and developing myself to become a coach, which is also an identity. And then I was called forth to step into actually being like someone who empowers and inspires people in healing the past stuff. So anytime and this is just because I know myself so well, and I know exactly what I do when I'm shifting, or when I'm outside of my comfort level. Anytime I take on something that's new to me, or is uneasy in my gut, anytime that I've ever experienced this excitement, or like, ooh, I really want to do this, or I want that, or I need to, it's like I up level my skill, is what I want to say, or my knowledge. Like, knowledge is easy. Like, I can get knowledge, I can get tons of knowledge. It's the skill set, and then applying it, then integrating it as who I am, and then releasing that out into the world. my identity, or the one that fights that, always shows up. And it is like that for anybody who takes on something new in their life. You've all experienced it. The only difference is a lot of people just don't know that there's like this process that happens during when you're taking on this new thing that you want to take on, that you're uncomfortable doing, but you know you want to do it. And so you start to push through. But what happens is your brain moves right into survival mode, and then you want to give up, or you walk away, and or you procrastinate, or you just you give up. And I know this oh so well, because that's who I used to be, and I relate to it, and I've seen it in so many people. So people who get that, work through that process of up leveling, because they know, I know, that on the other side of that is the outcome that I desire. So it's really important to be paying attention to your thoughts. So how do you know when you're up leveling? Well, when you're freaking uncomfortable as hell, and you're ready to give up, and you start having thoughts like I'm not worthy of this, or I don't deserve it, or I'm not good enough. There's also, so you have these thoughts, but there's also this physical stuff. There's also things that may show up in your environment that will actually start to tell you, oh, you shouldn't go there. And your brain will just, because that's what its function is to protect you. This is stuff that has been proven and proven and proven for many, 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 many years, beginning from the time we were cavemen, because our brain at that point in time was actually about survival. So think about that. So when we were, when those people were cavemen, their only sole purpose was to survive, period. And the brain only knew survival. So it's just like part of our brain. And then of course we've grown over centuries or evolved, I should say. We've evolved over years, and now here we are. However, we still have that part of our brain that wants to protect us. So what I mean is when, as a caveman or cavewoman, we would survive. And what survive meant was we had to kill our food to eat. Well, I guess the men probably did that. But they would go without food for days, months, probably. And I'm not great at history. I only know what I've learned from my studying. So I'm not going to get into like this long conversation about the cavemen and the history of cavemen. I just want you to get that we have this part of our brain that is all about survival. It is our brain's job to protect us. And so, but the difference between caveman and who we are today is hugely different. We've evolved as a human so much that it's beautiful. It's like amazing the power of our brain. And if people really just got that in itself, like, you are the one who is the most powerful person on this planet, because, well, we are at the top of the food chain. But anyways, so as the caveman, think about this. Just imagine this caveman, and if they were protecting themselves from, like the saber-toothed tiger, the saber-toothed tiger, they're protecting themselves from the, I mean, come on, because they don't want to get eaten, right? So they would protect themselves. So they're in this survival mode of surviving. And that's the way the mind was back then. However, today, as a human being, the way our brains have developed or evolved, from the time that we're children to the age of 7, this part of our brain has learned to survive. And over time, you develop these habits, these patterns of thinking that has protected you and served you very well. So the first thing is you want to notice any resistance that you have. You know, it's always about paying attention to your emotions. And because our emotions are the indicating thing that is like our guide, you know, so it's like a beacon. And if you're always paying attention to the beacon and where it's at in that flow, then you're able to work through the flow. Yeah, and I'm not going to say that it's easy. It's not. It takes work, and if you're doing the work, then you're able to work through that, and then bam, on the other side of that work is the most miraculous thing in the world. This beautiful miracle that transpires from the work that you're doing for yourself, and in turn manifests into the world. And we are a part of this bigger picture that at a vibrational level, energy wise, and scientists are proving this, and they have been proving this for years now, and it's just finally starting to touch the surface where it's just this beautiful process, and it's understanding how to navigate that process. So how do you know you're up leveling? Well, first off, if you take on something that's new for you, whether it's you're a real estate agent or you're an artist, first off, knowing we're all artists inside, and it's tapping into that creativity of us that we're born with, and expressing it out into the world. So when you're expressing who you truly are authentically, and you practice this daily, then you see less and less of the survival brain showing up, I'll say. So when you live from within and you practice it daily, then you're able to express yourself, and those things that get in the way of you powerfully having the results that you're looking to have in your life, whether it be more money, a better relationship, health, whatever that area of your life is that you're struggling with, move through the discomfort of that. And the discomfort is what is your indication that you are going to up level in that area of your life. And the discomfort will show up in the form of, you know, some people it could be physical, depending on the level of discomfort. So it's like this meter. So for me, for example, I've taken on a huge, so the more I take on in my up level, because I want to up level manifesting or creating wealth. And so by doing that, I need to do the work that's going to get me there. And what the work is at a spiritual level. It's also in skill set, which comes as I practice daily in the things that I need to do. So for me, that means cleaning up debts. You want to be looking for areas. It's like finding a needle in the haystack. You want to be looking for where you are out of integrity in your life in that specific area. So for me, and of course, I've started this process a couple of years ago. So starting with being out of integrity with money, and getting for myself that money is just energy. Money flows in, money flows out, and I need to have a place for money. So if I'm imagining this life and I have this vision and I'm inspired by it, and for me to have flow and ease in that, then I deal with first the lack of integrity that I have around that thing. So powerfully dealing with debts and being responsible for, like, I'm the one that created that shit in the first place, right? And then, and so when I talk about cleaning up messes, you really take on and be being 100% responsible for your part in the mess itself. Who cares about anybody else's part? You've got to let that part go. So you deal with and you push through the uncomfortableness of your lack of integrity, your lack of being inauthentic as who you are in this world. So when I'm talking about being in flow and ease, that's when that happens, because I've already been working through the lack of integrities, and then the dealing with the mindset piece of it next. So creating wealth was, first off, dealing with my lacks of integrities. The second thing, where am I being inauthentic with myself about money? And by asking myself questions and journaling, I can uncover my real deepest thoughts about how I feel about money, how it's showed up in my life, how it's played out in my life, and identify these patterns, the negative patterns of how it's impacted my life. And when I say patterns, I'm saying patterns of thoughts, patterns of who I'm being in my life, patterns of what I'm doing, what I have, and really identifying those things and then cleaning up any messes I have around that stuff. And it could be sometimes it can be as simple as, I kind of put off paying this one bill, and well, instead of beating yourself up about it, just freaking take care of the shit, call whoever you need to call. See, you kind of, once you've dealt with the lack of integrity around your lacks of integrity, because first off, we're never 100% integrity, but if you're practicing it daily and that you strive for this integrity, because for me, the foundation of my life is based around integrity. And when I'm out of integrity, it shows up, I'm telling you, like in a bad way. And as soon as it starts showing up, I know, okay, the first place I need to look is, where am I out of integrity in my life? And so for me, around debts, it was, starting the process of, okay, clearing up debt. And, maybe I need to learn a new skill set of money management, or, whatever it is that I need to do. But I only knew I needed to do those things because I cleaned up my lack of integrity around it, which meant what I did was I made phone calls to people that I owed money to and cleaned that up and started paying them off. And then I would call these creditors or collectors. But once you start doing that, because I'm dealing with the stuff out here, then what happens is I create this new space to create from, which has allowed me to look at, okay, well, what are the actions that are in alignment with my integrity around money? And then those things will show up. Okay, well, I need to learn how to manage money. Well, how am I going to learn how to manage money? Who can I learn that from? So then the process becomes easier and easier, and it becomes a flow. And then I've created now, I have a savings. One of the things that was out of my realm was saving money. Like, we would open a savings account and we would never save money. We'd get money in there and then we'd spend it. Another one that I was out of integrity with was throughout. And so this is where you connect dots with your past. And they're just quick, easy ones. Sometimes there's digging deeper stuff, you getting to the root cause of the shit. But sometimes it's just surface level stuff that you can work through and just deal with it. And this is the part that people don't want to do. This is the part where they chicken out and they're like, fuck that. I'm not going to be responsible for my part because it's their fault. They did that to me, or they start complaining about the bullshit of that other person. And if that's the kind of life that you want to continue to live, go for that. I mean, it works. It works. It will always work. However, if you're up to playing big games and you want to create wealth and you want to be prosperous and abundant in your life, and I'm not talking just about money, I'm talking about being prosperous and abundant in love and juicy relationship with your spouse. I just got huge goosebumps. If you want to create a life beyond the one that you're currently living, where there's suffering in any part of your life. And when I talk about suffering, I'm talking about the arguing, the fighting, the constant paycheck to paycheck kind of living, not being able to buy Christmas for your children, or to afford a Thanksgiving dinner, or to be able to contribute to your community. Come on, there's times when I know that you've sat there and you've seen somebody post on Facebook and they're crying out for help, to help pay for this, or to help me buy a turkey for my family this year. And there's that part of you that just says, I wish I had the money to help that person. You always have this part of you that yearns or craves more from life. And the more that you bury that down and the more you shove it down or ignore it, you're only doing a disservice, not only to yourself, but to our world at whole. What would it be like to say, oh my gosh, like I know who that person is and I'm going to help them? Or what would it be like to have consistently long evenings of joy and love and happiness with family, the ones that you never thought you'd ever love again? What would it be like if you had no longer if you were no longer hanging on to resentments of people from your past? What would it be like if you could actually forgive yourself for the damage that you've caused yourself and others? I know what it's like for me to actually do all of that. I know what it's like to have a deep amount of compassion for another human being, even the ones that have hurt me, and have found a place to forgive them wholeheartedly and let go of resentments and powerfully say no when I want to say no, and show up in my life, in my relationship, no matter how they're showing up. When you can be with someone else who's pissed off and angry, you've come a long way. So, how do you know when you're up leveling? Well, first off, if you're doing the work, and when I talk about doing the work, I'm talking about like you are out there in action, on the court, on that bull, riding, then you are in the game of life, performing in every area of your life, whether it be health, relationships, money. It doesn't matter. Whatever area of life that you are taking on, you're doing the work. And the work is dealing with this right here, dealing with this, where you've lacked in integrity in your life, where you're being inauthentically this person who is a complainer, a victim, and not showing up and doing the work so that you can be that authentic person, so that you can say, I don't lack integrity in that area of my life because I did the work to clean it up. So you're up leveling. You know when you're up leveling because you've been doing the work, and then when you're not doing the work, it shows up physically, and it may show up forever, the rest of your life. The patterns keep showing up. Life just always sucks. You're always paying bills. You're never getting to experience this abundant life that God created for us to live abundantly. You know, I never believed ever that there was an abundance of money in this world. There is an abundance of money, and there's plenty of concepts. You can go Google it if you want, that will show you the truth that yes, we live in an abundant world. Not just an abundance of money, but we live in an abundant world. And when you actually can get to a place where you believe that, and how I had to practice believing that was journaling it every single day. It is part of my journaling. It's instilling the beliefs around what it is that I want. So you are up leveling when you know you're doing the work, and that shit starts to show up, but you keep pushing through it, and you don't allow it to hold you back. You just keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. You don't resist it. You embrace it. You love it. You just let it in, let it flow, bring it on. Because the moment you resist, you've already lost. The moment that you don't allow, the moment that you're not stepping back and saying, what is it that I need to learn from this? It could be just a skill set. It could be as simple as, okay, well, there's that fear of I'm not good enough, you know, that fear or that story, I'm not good enough, and just, okay, move through it. And so that's what I've been literally dealing with for the past 3 weeks. And this is a huge up level for me. I've been doing the work. And one of the things that I am super outside of my comfort zone has been showing up here on live streams. And I know that I will be doing it more consistently. And it's because I'm doing the work with my coach. And I have 2 coaches. I have a coach where I literally am learning skill sets, but I'm also reprogramming the neurons in my brain. That has been tremendously freaking amazing. I also do a spiritual work, and I do. I also have a coach who is working with me through that spiritual work. So, and asking the right kinds of questions. So, and then of course, I'm the one doing all the work. Like, I'm the one doing all the work, okay? But a coach is perfect for guiding you. A coach is going to either hold your hand or kick you in the ass. And I have both coaches who kick me in the ass. So I don't need someone to hold my hand anymore. I need someone to kick me in my ass. Sometimes though, if you've never been in that place of where you're being coached, or you have a coach, you know, depending on what it is that you're needing. I mean, there's coaches for everything. You can have a health coach or mentor, you know, whatever you want to call it, coaches, mentors, you know, therapists, whatever it is that you have in place for you that's going to help you be out here, out on the arena, riding the bull. Okay. So anyways, that's my message for today. How do you know when you're up leveling? So if you are experiencing a lot of up and down, and you feel sad, or some people experience it as depression. I know I've experienced it as a form of depression, but it's not depression. Well, I shouldn't say it's not depression. To me, so I have my spirit animal, the bear, and I have a spirit animal, the beaver. And so for me, it's about balancing those two. And right now, Mama Bear is saying it's time to integrate. It's time to let go, release. It's hibernation time. And so Beaver doesn't like that. This part of myself does not like to do that. However, I've been for 2 years now practicing and learning to just be with that, and that's what I'm doing. And so my up level has been huge. My up level is huge, and the reason why is because I can, at a physical level, know this, because of the upper respiratory infection, because of the vomiting, because of the diarrhea, and then plus knowing that this is also the time for me to hibernate. This is also my time to integrate and assess and be looking at every aspect of my life. I've been cleaning up integrity where integrity has been out, while also being out of integrity, so it's just like this continuous level of work, and resting as my soul guides me to rest. Like, I don't force myself to. I used to. I know what it's like to force myself to, and when I talk about that, what I mean is, because as women, we're constantly like, well, I shouldn't say all women, but I know for myself, and I know there's other women out there. I like to be busy. I think I love busyness. I love being busy. However, I used to do it. I had to distinguish for myself between being busy because of stress or because of keeping something off my mind, so I had to distinguish between, am I being busy from a soul level, or am I being busy from, not looking at stuff or dealing with things that could be there and I'm just avoiding them. So it's learning to distinguish those things for yourself. All right. Okay. I guess there was more there to share. So, anyways, so I just want you guys to know I'm still alive. I'm up leveling, and I'm just, yeah, I'm here. I love you guys. I absolutely just know that you are out there playing big games in your life, and just don't be on the bleachers. Get off the bleachers and jump on the bull. Namaste.